And so I think we're recording now. Right. So I'm with, let's see, Ellen Jaffe? Ellen Jaffe Jones.
Right.
And what a pleasure to have you on this little show here. So I saw you on YouTube. Yeah, I saw you on YouTube, and I was just typing in vegan, sex, and there you were talking about your vegan book and how sex is so much better on a vegan diet. So why don't we start there and because a lot of guys are struggling with their sexuality and so on. So can you give people some hope that things can get better in the bedroom, and why is vegan? Can you guarantee that vegan consistently is going to be the win for the bedroom? Why do you? What's your experience?
So first of all, I worked at Smith Barney before I started doing real estate, and we were told then never to use the word guarantee.
Right.
We've got to be real careful about that. And also, suffice it to say, I'm not a doctor. I'm not a nutritionist. What I have been doing, I've been vegan for the better part of 40 years while I watched my mom and both sisters get breast cancer. I became a trained cooking instructor for Physicians Committee for Responsible Medicine, and then wrote 6 of my own vegan health and fitness books. So I wrote the book Vegan Sex. That was book number 4. With a cardiologist, Dr. Joel Kahn.
And he's famous, yeah.
Oh, yeah. As a result of that book.
Yeah.
He's an amazing guy.
Probably, yeah.
But, I was starting to write the book myself, and I already had 3 books in print at this point with my publisher, and my publisher didn't think writing the book Vegan Sex would sell. I don't know, having the word sex in the title seems to be a pretty good on the SEO charts. But anyway, they said, well, now that, I ran into Dr. Kahn at a Veg Fest where I was speaking, and I said, Dr. Kahn, I'm starting to write this book, Vegan Sex. Would you be interested in co-authoring it? He said, absolutely. So from that point on, my publisher, we had actually self-published the book for about a year. And then my publisher let me sell it at, I think it was the Seattle Veg Fest a few years ago. And when he saw that it was actually outselling his own books that we had published, he said, maybe we could buy the rights from you. And he did. And then that's kind of how it got going. But in terms of how it works, here's the deal. So what's good for the heart is good for other parts. And the vessels in the lower part of your body, think of your ankles. People get varicose veins because, those vessels clog up very, it doesn't take much to kind of make them turn nasty. But it's the same idea in the lower part of your belly. And by the time you have that death-defying heart attack 30 years later, the lower part of your body has been giving you warning calls for many, many years, maybe even decades. So erectile dysfunction is the leading indicator of heart disease by as much as 30 years. So when you clean that all out, and it's never too late, unless you've already had your death-defying heart attack and are not taking steps to change your diet, it's amazing. And if anybody out there has seen The Game Changers, that movie came out a year after my book, Vegan Sex, and it pretty much visually illustrated exactly what we were saying in the book. Dr. Kahn deals with the research and the scientific part of why this works, and I dealt with the experiential, emotional, personal part of the story, which was up until I was 62, I had partners starting at the age of 28 who had erectile dysfunction, big time. And each time we were told by doctors, oh, it's just part of the aging process, and just take the medicine and it'll go away. And I had one partner who did take the medicine, and one of the side effects was your eyes turn orange. It's like, what's wrong with this picture? Is, maybe changing your diet part of something that might be easier? And actually that partner was one of the husbands I had, ended up having a heart attack and coming within an hour of dying. I drove him to the hospital. And keep in mind, his best friend from college had been saying to him, even at a lunch that we went to, he had reversed his own prostate cancer. And he goes like, why don't you live with one of the best vegan cookbook authors in America? Why don't you just eat what she makes 3 times a day? And his answer was, I can't. The real answer was, I won't. And when he had the heart attack, he woke up from triple bypass surgery and said, you know, I don't ever want to go through that pain again. Help me go vegan. It lasted for about 6 weeks. And, at that point I was in cardiac rehab with him, and they told me there, you know way more about nutrition than anybody on our staff here. This is the head of cardiology. Why don't you bring in your Vitamix and make green smoothies for him every day? And we'll let you do that. So I did do that. I Vitamix, stored it in like this little cabinet that they gave each patient, and did that. But it just didn't hold. And, at the end of that, I'm just going like, I am not going to be the nurse with a purse here. And, if you don't want to make these changes, I'm just not going to hang in here. And, the Sarasota Memorial Hospital now does the Dean Ornish program for reversing heart disease. It is a vegan diet. Now they'll say, okay, we'll let you have dairy and cheese if you really can't give it up, but we encourage you not to do that. And they're just trying to get the mainstream to figure this out. And if a heart attack hasn't done it for you, then I guess they're sort of thinking, well, we'll try and keep them in the fold somehow. But anyway, so as I mentioned, all of my partners had ED, and it was incredibly frustrating. And when I had my first vegan experience, it was so different. And I write about this in the book. So, vegans by definition are eating more fruits and vegetables. So there's more water, and we don't need the lubricants, for example, that menopausal women are often told they will need. So, by the way, I just saw.
Right. Can you hang on that? Sorry. What? Go ahead.
So the difference,
the lubricants, you said.
Lubricants, yeah. So vegans tend to get more fruits and vegetables. So we are just by definition more lubricated. And I had an experience. I knew that I was possibly going to be having this encounter with a vegan, and I was going to physical therapy at the time because I had lower back pain, and the doctors determined that it was the result of not having sex, specifically. And can we get graphic here? Is that okay?
Yeah, of course.
Okay. From not having intercourse, my muscles around the vagina had atrophied. So their prescription was to get a vibrator, and they actually went out and bought one that was appropriate, not for the purpose of having an orgasm, but for the purpose of stimulating the muscles that had atrophied and creating blood flow. So when it became just coincidental that I might actually have the real thing, they said, oh, it's going to be so painful, you should get lubricants. And I went out and did that. And I'm telling you, I got 3 different kinds of lubricants. I put them under the pillow and never needed a one. So it just blew my mind so much how different it was, not only for myself, which is important for women who are listening to this, but for men as well. It was harder, longer, it lasted longer. And, the whole spirituality of being connected with another vegan just blew my mind. And I thought, I've got to write about this. So that's the long-winded answer of why I wrote that book. But I just thought, if the whole world knew how much easier and better it is to have sex with a vegan, then I think we're going to get a lot more interest in this. And sure enough, in the book, in the movie, The Game Changers, they actually showed this, how they gave the guys, if you haven't seen it, there are 3 college students, and they gave them a meat dinner one night and a vegan dinner the next night, and they measured their erectile function while they slept. And it was so much different on a vegan diet. And their blood was different too. And when they showed the blood work and the results of these testings to the college students, every one of them said, okay, I'm vegan. And that's kind of, whenever we reach them, I'm all about it.
Yeah. No, my experience is over the years that there's more of a natural sexuality where there's no stimulation involved, where, like, for example, if you eat an egg, you get the stimulation from the egg, which doesn't really last very long. It might get you an erection, but it won't last long. And the quality of the erection will not be very good at all, in my experience. I mean, the whole and the orgasm for the man will be just like distilted and just very strange. And the whole connection running all the way down to the sensitivity of the penis for me is completely broken. And I can't really feel the mental connection to the penis. And but when you're vegan, the connection it's a spiritual bliss that takes place. You're totally connected, whole body, with the erection, and it's almost as if you're making love to yourself because it feels so good,
Yeah, to me, it was like electrical connections. It was on fire, really. And so, both, I think the reason it can last a long time is because both partners have a fair amount of lubrication. I mean, from a physical standpoint. Yeah.
Do you agree with the statement? Somebody said to me the other day, a friend of mine, he said, when the woman lubricates, that's the same thing as an erection for a man. Do you agree with that statement?
Yeah, I mean, and the the labia, the clitoris, they all swell with blood, just like a penis does, and hence the phrase penis envy. I mean, it's kind of the same thing that happens, just different anatomy, really. Yeah.
So in other words, if a woman does not lubricate, she has the equivalent of male ED. We could say that. Is that?
I'm not a doctor, so I would hesitate to go there, because I also think there is a part of the honeymoon phase that fades, and sometimes the excitement of a new partner is over time. You just don't get the same kind of mutual lubrication or excitement, and you have to work at that. And that's why places like Victoria's Secret and all those kinds of businesses have been so successful, is people are trying to reinvent the wheel. And if you don't want to have new partners all the time, you want to stay with your same partner, you got to find ways to spice it up.
That's right. That's exactly right. Now, so where are we going next? Let's see. We're talking about your book now. So I think it's pretty convincing so far for a lot of people to hear what we're saying about vegan. Now, what happens in my experience, and I've been experimenting with this for 25 years, because I believe that I had erectile dysfunction when I was, in my early 20s. And I went vegan when I was 24 because I read the book Adventures of a Kamikaze Cowboy by Dirk Benedict, who was an actor on the A-Team TV show. And I got into juicing and Norman Walker's books, and I found all his books. And so I started turning my life around when I was 24. And so everything has just gotten better since then, sexually. We're talking sexually here. But there have been the experiments where I've had a piece of fish, or I've had a couple eggs, or I've had some raw cheese, And I can tell you, after 25 years of doing these experiments, that each time it basically ruins my sexuality. I can safely say that, even the one egg, even the small piece of fish, people say fish is such a great addition to a sexual diet, And for me, I tell other guys, hey, fish doesn't work for me. They're like, what is wrong with you, man? I mean, come on.
Well, first of
Everybody
all,
eats
it's
fish.
got tons and tons of plastic in it. I think
Yeah,
they've identified pretty much every species now because of microplastics, and we're just treating, like here, the Gulf of Mexico sometimes as a garbage dump. So that's all breaking
yeah,
down, and the fish are ingesting it in some form or fashion. But also mercury is another thing that fish are very high in. And our
that's
local
right.
fishermen at the fishermen's market, I've talked to them, and they have exceedingly high levels of mercury. And, I
Right.
don't know, there's no money in broccoli, as I say in my first book, which was Eat Vegan on
Yeah,
$4. So there's really no interest in getting at this unless there's incredible public outcry and saying, we
yes,
really need to look at this. But yeah,
that's right.
we often joke as vegans, we go right to the source. We bypass the middleman or woman. So we don't need the fish. So you
That's
can
right.
eat seaweed, you can eat just, the kinds of foods that fish are eating, which is
Yes.
basically seaweed, at least in
Yeah.
an ideal world.
Yeah. Yeah. My sort of, I'm in the Philippines right now, and there are a lot of things that I can't get. I mean, I have to order lentils if I want to get lentils, basically. It's not as easy as you think to be vegan in the Philippines, because they eat a lot of chicken here. But so what they do have is mung beans. So I eat a lot of mung beans with coconut milk and lots of onions, lots of garlic, and things like that. But now, tell us more about anything you want to about vegan or your experience.
Well, my journey began, as I mentioned, my sisters all had breast cancer. We became part of the BRCA1 and BRCA2 gene studies. And they don't tell you when you're participating in a study like that what the results are. But we didn't really need a study to tell our family that the gene was alive and well. And in the 4 cases, they believe that 2 of the cases were genetic, but 2 of them were later in life. So it's thought that those were environmentally triggered. So I always say genes don't determine destiny. You
That's
don't
right.
have to be a rocket scientist, but you may have to be a TV investigative reporter like I was to figure out the truth about food. And because all my life I had grown up with this scourge in our family, I was just very focused and interviewing doctors as much as I could or dietitians to really try and figure out what is true. And there were starting to be in the 80s and 90s these courageous doctors who were coming out and saying, look, what's working is not necessarily the pharmaceuticals and the surgeries to help maintain a healthy weight or to avoid all these diseases of affluence, as T. Colin Campbell would coin that phrase in his book, The China Study. And so trying to figure out what is really going to be beneficial was indeed a challenge. So I left television, became a media consultant, and the first thing I did in my first day on the job there, was to contact Dr. Neil Barnard, president of Physicians Committee for Responsible Medicine, and ask if he needed media consulting for his staff, because he was completely, and still is completely, eloquent. But he said, absolutely, we've been thinking about doing it. So that began a 2-year relationship where I was flying up to Washington and training not only their staff, but many of the doctors who are now on the lecture circuit today. And just, kind of training them for the tough interview, 60-minute type questions, because that was the kind of reporting I used to do in Miami and St. Louis during my 18 years in TV news. So during that time, I was really percolating the idea, because I'd also worked at Smith Barney, as I mentioned, and that was before I did media consulting. But I would find that corporations really didn't care about saving the environment, but if they could market it and realize, like a company like Anheuser-Busch found that they could earn more money by recycling not only their own company's cans, but other companies' cans. They could put that in an annual report and say, we're socially responsible. So I thought if I could do a cookbook that would crunch the numbers on every single recipe and show people how ridiculously cheap it is to eat vegan, again, we would have more people on the vegan table. And that was really the case. I'll never forget, I was at the Miami Book Fair and my publisher had a table and some mainstream guy strolls by and he says, oh, I don't know about vegan, but you had me at $4 a day. So the idea that, you can eat healthfully. I got so tired of hearing all these stories on the news that said you can't eat well on a budget or food stamps. And here I've been doing this for 40 years. I even had a monk come up to me at one of my talks and he says, I buy foods for our monastery and we do it on $1 a day. So it can be done. And certainly you got to buy in bulk, and people say, oh, I don't have time to cook from scratch, but it's like, you don't have time for diabetes, cancer, and heart disease. Those are real time wasters. So that was.
I don't know about you. I can't live without fruit. I can't live without fruit. Period. I mean, today I had a bowl of. I've been eating about 5 avocados a day, and because it helps keep my weight on. Bananas, avocados, cucumbers, onions. What else? What else did I have? Tomatoes. I just love the raw diet. I really do. I'm totally sold on the raw diet. I mean, I think it can be a little bit more basic, right? Because fruit can be a little, a little bit more expensive. I mean, it is. Fruit is going up in price around the world. I mean, everywhere. So
yeah,
but certainly worth it.
Yeah, I mean, I always joke, because I went through this process, we asked the nurses in cardiac rehab, how much would it have cost to go through 30 days of cardiac rehab if Medicare wasn't paying for it, which it was. And we asked this question a number of times, and the universal answer was $1 million. I mean, that is not sustainable, no matter who pays for it, you, me, the government. It's just not a sustainable way to go. So yeah, raw is awesome. I have heard, I was a guest chef at the John McDougall Advanced Study Weekend, and I heard Richard Wrangham speak there. I quoted Richard in my book, Paleo Vegan. And, his whole take is it was the cooking of food that released more calories and made our brains and bodies grow larger. And he said a raw diet is a great way to lose weight or to sustain a healthy weight. But generally speaking, it's hard for a lot of people to sustain that. But if you can, knock yourself out. And there are a lot of health benefits for doing so. But, in places where beans are readily available, it's definitely a great comfort food, and it fills you up, and it gives you a lot of fiber. Not that vegetables and fruits don't, but it's just another way to do this. And there are many ways to do it healthfully. And certainly a raw diet can be very helpful as well, as long as you're not just eating avocados all day long.
Yeah. Well, it's interesting. I've noticed my wife is, she's sort of been trying to understand me the 1.5 years that we've been together, and I keep going back and forth between raw and cooked, and I'm trying to find out what works best and what makes me feel naturally horny. I mean, not like sort of like, just naturally, where I feel there's so many different levels to it. I mean, when I eat raw, I get into the mood in such a it's just easier. It's sort of easier to feel. It just happens when it happens, and you don't have to watch any dirty movies, or you don't have to really do anything. You don't have to read any dirty magazines. That's what I love about it. With vegan, you can just, when it comes on, and boy, it's there, you know, and you don't have to force anything. It's just so natural.
That's
I
really
love that.
interesting. Yeah, I had a partner who just felt like he had to watch porn to get
Yeah.
aroused. And it's like,
Right.
I don't know about this. And so I've had two vegan partners since I wrote my book, and they haven't needed any of that.
Right. Right. No, because you know, when you are feeling well, when the hydration is there and all the circuits are working and you're a male and there's a woman in the room, you're just like, there's a woman in the room. You know, I know what to do. You know what I'm saying?
That's funny.
And it just happens.
Yeah.
Whereas I remember if I ate a piece of fish or I ate an egg, I wouldn't feel horny. I would lose it. I start to lose it
Yeah. Well,
completely.
you know, without going into too many details,
Yeah.
um, let's just say that I was amazed I had three children
Yeah.
because my partner at the time just didn't last very long at all. And, you know, we're talking
Okay.
20s and 30s. And
Yeah.
me, when I look back on that, it's just so sad because I think how many guys out there are going through this and are
Yeah.
suffering from it. You know, and when I've talked about this, you know, most people have been very sympathetic and compassionate, but there have been some other people who are saying, you know, you're cock shaming, you're, you know, erectile dysfunction
Yeah.
shaming.
Yeah.
And, you know,
Right.
that's not
Right.
the point at all. But like heart disease, like cancer, like diabetes, this is a condition that can be, psychological issues aside, easily reversed. And it's just
Yeah.
when you figure that out. I mean, I've had so many couples come up to me over the years since the book has been out and have said, like, oh, I wish I knew this earlier, but thank you for giving us our lives back. And, you
Yeah.
know, doctors really need to get that message. It's not always about the drug.
Yeah. No, I was going to say that what you said about not being able to last very long, and I think that's because that there's these, you know, the blockages are there and things aren't flowing, and then it gets stilted. That what word can I use? Everything gets sort of jammed up,
It's like a
and
clogged plumbing line. That's all it is.
yeah, yeah, and so I mean now I can go, well, let's see. I don't know, 30, 40 minutes. I mean, and the charge is very even. And because your whole body is from head to toe communicating with each other. There's no break. There's no break in the chain. I don't. It's hard to describe it really for people that there's. In other words, the penis is no longer numb. What I mean is like it gets numb. You kind of lose the feeling of it
The sensitivity,
when you
right?
eat fish or when you eat chicken or whatever. You lose the sensitivity. So when you're making love, you're not really making love with your penis. You're making love with the whole entire body, and everything is just evened out, and it's just so enjoyable.
Yeah.
So
I'm not sure I've ever heard it so
I'm
graphically described. I wish I'd known you before I wrote the book. I would have included some of that. But you know, there are some testimonials from some guys in the book that, you know, say similar things,
Yeah.
especially from being in the same headspace with
Yeah.
a woman is just like, yeah.
Well, there's a guy in Florida, okay, who I met at a raw food potluck there. And I met the guy one time. He might watch this video, but he, at that time, I was like 30 years old. And he came up to me after the potluck and he said, so you're one of the old timers here, one of the like old raw food timer. I said, well, what do you mean old timer? I was like 29 at the time. No, I knew what he meant, but, and we became friends, and we were friends for like 15 years. And he was interested in the Coyote alignment technique. Have you heard of that? It's
Sounds
called
like
the
a
cat.
perfect sex position, but
It's called the cat, and basically it's the missionary position, but the angle gives the most stimulation to the clitoris, and it's sort of like the two mons bones get linked up, get synced up in such a way that so it's sort of this sliding action that's happening, and it's brilliant, but it feels way too good, and it just feels too incredible. Now, so I've been getting into that. I've been researching that and practicing that over the years with the vegan diet, and so that's, and Karetza, of course. I'm sure you've heard of Karetza and all these other things, but anyways, however you move your body, that's up to you. But
yeah, and
but
part of it too is anatomy, and also just because you're vegan doesn't mean you have this ideal weight. So if you're overweight, that can affect positioning too. So just some thoughts to consider too. It is not a guarantee, as you said at the beginning. There are really no guarantees in life, that's for sure. Good possibilities.
So what else? What else can we talk about as far as the? Go ahead.
Well, I know you're focused on the vegan sex thing, but I feel like I should say this. I'm a nationally ranked sprinter. I'm not doing the interview at home. Instead, we're here at my office. But, the age group awards, the 226 that I've obtained since 2006, really became kind of this in-your-face challenge. I've been racing since 2006, but in 2011, I wrote my first book, Eat Vegan on $4 a Day, and I was wearing a running shirt. I had it silk screened with the book cover on it. So it just says in very large letters, Eat Vegan on $4 a Day. And I had somebody at a race come up to me and just kind of like stick their nose in my face and say, yeah, right. Or you can't eat on a vegan diet for that kind of money, or you certainly can't race on a vegan diet. And in that moment, I decided, you know what, I'm going to set out on this journey. And at a race recently, I ran into a woman I hadn't seen in a few years, between COVID, and it was the race was kind of far away, but in her backyard. And she comes up to me and she says, are you still doing that vegan crap? And it's like, the misconceptions that are still out there that vegans don't get enough, whatever, protein, energy, every race I do is a testimonial to that end. And so I'm going to be 69 in November, just to kind of throw that out there.
I'll tell you, you've got flow, you've got energy, you're in the energy. Let's put it that way.
Yeah. And I owe it all to plants. I like to say plants enhance what's in your pants.
Yeah, that's good. That's good, Ellen. I like that.
There with alliteration, but seriously, I know that we've seen this in the athletic community, and there have been many books. My fourth book, and we didn't go through them. The second book was Kitchen Divided, as I mentioned, with my non-vegan partner. Then Paleo Vegan, because as I was a coach at a high school here for cross country and track, and I started hearing this paleo stuff going down, and I forced myself to read the paleo books, and I'm going like, this is just like Atkins and the Zone Diet all over again. And the same thing with keto. A high protein meat-based diet will help you lose weight, maybe, but often at the expense of your heart and your kidneys. So it works in the short term, but certainly not in the long term. And
I know I asked these guys, I say, well, you're eating, I met a friend in Japan who I was teaching with in Thailand. He was standing at the hostel. I said, "Hey, I haven't seen you in 3 years. What are you doing here?" And he was a vegan, and he says, "Well, now I'm paleo." And the guy was like 23 years old. I said, "Wow, you're paleo now, really? Okay, so are you able to get an erection? I mean, what's the deal with that?" He's like, "No problem there."
He's 23, right?
But that's what I figure,
Yeah. Check back with him in another 10, 20 years, it will probably be different. But, Richard Wrangham, when he wrote this book called Catching Fire, it was about the cooking of food. And he also was quoted, and there was a National Geographic article that came out about a year after my book, Paleo Vegan. And it really was I just wrote it to address the craze and say, hey, we were mostly vegans back in true Paleolithic times. And National Geographic, in its cover story a year later called The Real Paleo Diet, they quoted out of my book in numerous places without attribution, which really annoyed me. But, they were saying we were way more gatherers than we were hunters. The success rate, as Richard Wrangham says, was abysmal, and it still is. There are 2 hunter-gatherer tribes left in Africa, and their success rate is maybe once or twice a month. And then, can you eat this raw meat without getting sick and dying? That was the other part of the equation. So anyway, that was book number 3. Book number 4, because I was starting to rack up some medals, hardware, as we say, in the running community. My 4th book was Vegan Fitness for Mortals, because at that time, the fitness books that were being written were like by Robert Cheek, Vegan Bodybuilding, also with my same publisher. But, these bulked up, really sexy looking guys, and hardly any books written at that point by vegan women. And, you can spend a fair amount of time in the gym on a daily basis, and your muscles can, let's go on this side. I guess we're better here. But this is just through the pumping my arms through running, and not a big workout routine. And so I wanted to kind of write the book for the average workout person who just wanted to get off the couch and enjoy a good level of fitness. So that was book number 4. Then book number 5 was Vegan Sex. And as I like to joke, if that doesn't work out, Vegan for One was my last book. And, the recipes are single serving. So, we waste so much food, not only in our country, but all over the world. And if you're only there for yourself, you have to worry about getting enough macronutrients and eating a balanced diet, but not throwing away food.
Can I say something about protein? Because a lot of guys that are watching are going to say, well, yeah, you're not going to get enough protein to get an erection. I really don't believe it. Well, okay. So the last 3 nights I have had, so my wife, she puts the guacamole in the big bowl. I got the guacamole over here. I got the bananas over here. I've got some cucumbers with onions and garlic, some hot peppers. And then the mung beans, and then the sprouted, and then we just whipped it up in the heat with a little bit of I think it was peanut butter, a little bit of peanut sauce or whatever. Incredible. I mean, erection. I mean, my gosh, it was just a little bit of mung beans, but
wow.
I mean, I lasted like 40 minutes. It was fantastic. It's like this. For me, the sex of my life, I don't know. So if protein's the big thing, I mean, and of course there is protein in a little bit, right? Or whatever. I don't know. I don't know how and everything. Yeah.
Right. And it's about blood flow. It's all about blood flow. It's not about the protein.
Well, like you said, I'm not a doctor either, but I have been purposefully researching on my own body with the vegan diet sexually to see, how I can consistently perform, because I like it. I like sex. I want consistency. I want every day I'm going to be feeling like I want to make love every single day. I didn't want a day off, I don't want a holiday. And
really,
no.
Every day?
Every day. Oh man.
Well, you
You
may be
know what
onto
I'm saying.
something for the sequel. Maybe it is a testimonial. So if you have some folks like yourself, maybe after they watch
Yeah,
this video, maybe we could be onto something. And self-publishing is very easy to do these days. So it's not a bad idea.
I'm game. I'm game. Yeah, this is this has been my focus for the last 26 years, and I've got a lot to say about it, really. And uh, but anyhow, so how are you on time over there? Are you
Well, I
okay
should
for
probably
time,
wrap
or
things up because I am
we
in
should wrap
a
it up?
somewhat public
Yeah,
office here, and
yeah,
heaven help us, they've been hearing all this. Maybe it would be a good thing, I guess. But
yeah.
but
Sure, why not?
people want to get in touch with me. Obviously, I'm on YouTube with my own YouTube channel, Ellen Jaffe Jones, and my
Yeah,
website, Veg Coach. Just happy to help. If people, I know you're going to be posting this on your YouTube channel, yes?
yeah.
So if you
And
got questions,
maybe I can
comments,
send you a copy, or I could send you a
absolutely.
copy.
And I
Yeah.
I am working with a woman now, just to give you an idea. I am giving her all of my Social Security just to help me edit my videos, because I really am committed and passionate to getting this message out in ways that I have not before. And you know, you kind of get to, when you see all the crazy things that are going on in our world, and you get to be up in years like me. You think like,
You look
what
great.
is
I mean, look at your
use?
great
Thank you so
hair.
much.
You look great.
Check is in the mail. Oh, this thick vegan hair. It's so funny. Just one final story. So I'm at a family wedding about 10 years ago, and this was with one of my exes. And my former sister-in-law comes up to me and she just grabs my hair like this. And she says, "You still have your hair." And I go,
Wow.
"Am I not supposed to?"
Yeah.
And I guess, I have read that menopause makes your
Yes.
hair thin, but like that totally didn't happen. And here's the other thing too. What started this whole journey, I mentioned that I had back pain. Uh,
Yeah.
I had been diagnosed with fibroid tumors, and I had gone off of my vegan diet while I worked at Smith Barney, because we would work like sunrise to midnight, and they would bring in these working lunches and dinners at Morton's, and the only choice you got for lunch was what kind of topping you wanted on your pizza. And so it was tough. And by the time I worked there 5 years, and by the time I quit, I was 30 pounds heavier than I am now. I had fibroid tumors. They wanted to do a hysterectomy. And I went to the emergency room because I had hemorrhaging for 21 days. And they got my regular OB on the phone. And she said, "Ellen, go back to that vegan diet and call me in the morning." And within 3 weeks, all signs of menopause were gone. The fibroid shrank. I didn't need to have a hysterectomy. And I've always said, like, how many hysterectomies could we have saved in this country had we all been vegan, or you had a doctor who said, go on a vegan diet?
There
So,
you go. There you go. You
part
got the female testimony right there. I'm talking about 26 years of vegan sex. I mean, there you go. I mean, what more do you need?
and when I say that I have been vegan for 40 years, the
Yeah.
interruptions were like that. I also had obstetricians who said, if you don't give your unborn children whey protein, you're going to cause brain damage. And when I have said this in different audiences, other women my age have nodded their heads. Yes, this was the information we were given at the time. And what was so crazy is that I was involved with La Leche League, which is the breastfeeding information and support group around the world, that, we get the middle of the call nights, my baby won't nurse, and, either talk them on the phone, counseling, or go over to their house, position the baby's tongue so the baby will properly breastfeed. And anyway, their cookbooks at the time, and we're talking in the 1980s, 90s, were saying they were just full of meat and dairy recipes. And I'm going like, wait a minute, we're focusing on giving our children our own species milk, which is the best nutrition you can possibly give. And then all of a sudden, upon weaning, they're supposed to start drinking another species milk. What's wrong with this picture? And I think things have changed since then. But it's like, and when I would ask that question, they would say, don't mix causes. That
Yeah.
was
Yeah.
kind of the answer to that, breastfeeding is controversial enough, which it is, and it was. I lived in St. Louis. A woman was actually arrested for breastfeeding in her own car in a shopping mall. So yes, it's a
Shame.
crazy world.
Shame on this world. Shame on this world.
Yeah,
Shame
really,
on this world.
really.
Well, you were saying about that, the breast milk. I forgot what I was going to say. Vegan. I forgot what I was going to say. Okay, forget that. So, anyways, so what else? So what else?
Well, if people have more questions, please, again, feel free to drop them down below. And of course, since I'll be sharing this on my channel, as I know you will, be sure to like and subscribe.
Yes. No, what I was going to say, now I remembered. Okay, I was going to say that I still think that vegan, there's still this stigma with being a vegan and being a mom and raising your kid. I mean, I still think that exists. I still think that people view vegans who have kids as some sort of monsters or something. I don't know. You think that stigma is still a little bit there in society?
Absolutely.
A little bit.
But there's a lot of research now that suggests it's just fine to raise your children this way. And when you think about true Paleolithic times, these men would go off and, look for the elusive buffalo that was not running through our backyard 3 times a day or whatever, animal they were chasing. And, the tools that they used to try and catch them were very primitive. So again, their success rate was abysmal. So you had women back at home, in the very traditional sense, taking care of the kids. And what were they doing? They were foraging for berries and nuts and seeds and, whatever greens they could find or prepare.
Yeah.
So, nutritionally, it's fine. We don't need another species milk for our own sustenance. We are very capable nutritionally of surviving just on plants. And I think that there's a YouTube channel called Born Vegan, Serena Farb, for those people who are concerned about it. She's been raised vegan since birth. And if you check my YouTube channel, this was like totally freaky. Sarasota has a great vegan community, and we have some powerful organizers of meetups here, even through COVID, just trying to figure out how to deal with all this. But I went to one 2 weekends ago and met a vegan ballerina, professional ballerina with the Sarasota Ballet Company. And she was telling me she's vegan from birth. So I right there, I just grabbed my camera and I said, we got to do an interview. And we did. Wow. And it was really, that's up on my YouTube channel now. So beautiful woman, just no shortage of energy. She said she has been tested out the wazoo, as you might imagine. All kinds of blood tests, and she said everything's fine. And people just can't believe I've been vegan since birth and I'm a ballerina.
I've met a few too, a few guys in near Sacramento, and these guys were ripped. These guys were like raw foodists and beautiful people. But I met Harvey Diamond in that little health food store in
Siesta Key,
Longboat Key, or maybe Siesta Key. I think. Yeah. I can't remember. What's some of the names of those health food stores over there, over the bridge? Siesta Key.
Yeah, anyway, I actually live about an hour's drive, depending on traffic, from there, so I don't get over there too much. But and one of them was just recently bought out by another couple. The location, I don't remember what the old location name was, but Nutritious You. Just trying to think of some names. Good Origins. Sadly, the big health food stores have bought out the little ones. That's happened all over.
Are you a Whole Foods shopper or not?
Well, unfortunately, Whole Foods is the closest health food store by a long shot to where I live. By a long shot. So, great vegan restaurants here, and that we try to patronize them as much as I can.
Vegan or Sarasota, that's where I raised my kids for a couple of years there, and I was getting them into vegan. I don't think they're vegan anymore. They should be, but it's up to them. But yeah, I remember it was so supportive when I had the kids there. It was so fantastic. Yeah. I mean, I was taking them around. We were having banana almond sandwiches, almond butter, but putting the almond butter on there. And they loved it. But well, look, I'll let you go, and it's been fantastic chatting with you. I feel like we could probably do about 100 of these. I don't know. I enjoy it.
All right.
Thanks again to great. Ellen Jaffe Jones, everybody. Thank you, Ellen, and keep up the good work.
Appreciate it.
And see you next time. Thanks, Ellen.
Okay. Thank you. We just had people coming in, so it's time to go.
Sure.
Right,
okay.
Thank you.
Thanks, Ellen.
Bye.
Bye.
Sure. Bye-bye.